Welcome back, boys and some girls, to another review. This time it's going to be for Styx, Blades of Greed. The short version is just another Styx game. Nothing more than that. Within the first few hours, you have already seen everything this game has to offer. But it doesn't mean this game is bad. It is not a terrible game. But as the third game in this trilogy, I kind of expected something more, some kind of an evolution. But it's not that. It's more static, and some of it is even regressive. So before we start to break this down, just letting you know that as always, this is going to be divided into number one, story, gameplay, vibes, performance, monetization, and then finally we're going to bring it all back for a summary. So let's begin with the story part. My first point about the story, I'm not going to tell you all about it, but I just want to give you a very short summary of what all the trilogy games are like, okay? So in game number one, what happens? Styx uses Amber, he hears voices, and then he fights someone who is trying to control him. Well, he was named Rakash, the original Styx, he fights against him. Then the Green Plague. Game number two, Styx uses Quartz, Amber, it's kind of like the in-between thing. Then again, he hears voices, and he fights the elves who are trying to control him. And then finally, for game three, he uses Quartz, he hears his voices, and then he's trying to fight someone who's trying to control him, the Inquisition. There is no evolution in the story, there is no escalation in the urgency of things. It's just reusing the same concept 3 times and just changing some assets here and there. That's pretty much it. Point number 2. At the very end of the game, the very last cutscene, I think it's the very last line even, there's something that popped to me. Styx used to say every time somebody tells him anything, he says, "What's in it for me?" But this time he actually said, "What's in it for us?" As him, Heledrin, and all the crew basically. But the game does not show that. It is not happening in the game. In the game, you're only doing everything as Styx, on your own. Nobody helps you pretty much doing anything. This is just solo stealthing all the way. There's no us. Therefore, this us moment does not feel earned at all. There are no meaningful duo stealth moments like we had in the previous game. Relationship and things like that, just between the characters, only develop in cutscenes. There is barely any like talking during gameplay that happens that is actually relevant to anything. In general, there's a lot of missed opportunities to tell the story as you're going on doing the gameplay, which makes your brain and your hand more connected, and also your heart, I guess, technically, because you're more connected to the characters and the story. I think the most obvious instant of this thing happens right when you start the game, between, I think, the first cutscene and the tutorial. Like right when you start, the ship's crashing, you crash nearby somewhere, and then you're just waking up in the town 3 days later. What would have been cool and interesting is to do the tutorial as you're walking to town. This would have been way more interesting, right? You walk to town, you get like the story between the characters connected. Like what happened those 3 days? Why are we all suddenly friends? Like why would we work together? Who are these characters? Some people, this might be their first Styx game. Who is this green creature? Why is this big ass lady talking this way and people are listening to her? Nobody knows those characters. It basically relies on the fact that you played all 3 games and you're a very big fan of the series. And it does not bring you new customers in. Point number 3, I want to talk about the villain a little bit. Now, the main villain is basically just a random bald guy, a religious bald guy, I would say. He's just the leader of the Inquisition. Now, there was an instant in the game, I think right about the middle, somewhere around there, where Styx could have killed this guy easily. He took his powers away and then he just left him. Just go on, you're free. But he could have not done that. He could have killed him and this would have ended whatever story we had going on. But instead he lets him live. Then he goes off, he becomes strong again. He becomes again the main evil bad guy. And then at the very final boss, they don't make sure he's dead again. So what happens is the Quartz, which is against this power in this story, kind of takes over his body, and he basically makes him like a puppet. Now, Styx defeats him in a very repetitive boss fight, which we are going to talk about later on in the gameplay section. Styx just defeats him, and then he's lying there on the floor, and the camera pans to him multiple times, showing you that he's not dead. He's coming back to life soon. But the characters don't make sure he's dead, even though they already had this problem previously when they just didn't finish him off and he came back again. I see this a lot in media where the writers don't know how to fix the hole they dug themselves into, so they have to make something up. They have to make the character dumber, stupider, in order to dig themselves out of this writing hole where they can't get out, because they need to make somehow sense of the matter, and it's hard to write a good story, right? So the easier one is just say, yeah, the characters didn't do that. He didn't do that. There's no real reason why he didn't. Just, he didn't. But I don't want you to think that everything is just negative. There is absolutely nothing good. There is some good. The crew dynamic in the cutscenes was actually more interesting than the previous games. It felt like we were dropped in after they were like friends for like a year, even though it'd been like only a few hours till from the moment they met. It felt like they were friends already for like a year or something like that, and we were kind of just dropped in, and here we go, this is the group dynamic. So it felt a little weird, but it felt nice, it felt funny. There were a lot of funny moments. I found myself laughing at a lot of Styx jokes. It was funny. Now obviously Styx and Heledrian are still the strongest characters because they are the most, I would say, vocal and also the oldest characters. I guess technically the elf guy, which I forgot his name right now, is also in the previous game, but he doesn't talk a lot. He's mostly like the quiet on the side guy, so he doesn't feel as deep as Styx and Heledrian. So gotta say, those characters, I just wish we would have gotten more. Now for the gameplay, this is where we dive a little bit back into the negative. I'll explain to you why. Point number one, the core game loop is kind of a problem. Stealth is basically just going into a room, waiting a few minutes, just analyzing the room, and then executing like a 10 to 15 second action sequence. And then that's it. You grab whatever you need, and you just wait again for the amount of minutes until you learn the pattern for the next room, for the next whatever, for the next space, and then you can execute whatever you need to execute and move on. This feels like you're actually trying to solve a puzzle you already know. You know what you need to do, but you kind of wait for permission to do it. It's very weird and it doesn't feel as intuitive. It feels very monotone, not really challenging. Point number two, kind of iterate on point number one. Your skills really don't matter. I'll explain in a second, and they also matter a lot. Because you learn the room layouts anyway to grab everything in order to do whatever you need, skills don't really change your strategy. They shorten the time you need to wait. So if you needed to wait 5 minutes to learn the entire pattern, you can use skills to get rid of enemies, which will lower your time you need to wait for like, I don't know, 30 seconds. I'm just giving arbitrary numbers, so don't take the number too hard. The concept is what I'm trying to say. The main skills and abilities that you unlock are pretty fucking cool, but you unlock them a little too late, and by the time you use like the climbing on walls and stuff, it's the end of the game. Now, the way it is unlocked is obviously intentional. It's the way they can use the same maps over and over and over again by giving you more tools, allowing you to explore more of the same map. Now, I'm not saying it bad. It is actually, I think, the most positive things I had to say. The maps are beautiful, but we're gonna touch on it when we get to the vibes section. So in the end, what happens, progression doesn't feel like it's evolving. It feels more like it's being stretched out, so it feels more airtime instead of being more fun. Now all of this ties back into kind of a catch-22 here. I'll explain things. Number one, clones kind of cost you Ember right now, and I don't think it should, because it discourages your experimentation and trying to do more interesting things. It's the same thing for like other skills. I think their Ember cost is a little too high. So what happens at the end is, in order to explore, you need resources because you want to use skills. You want to have fun. You want to use your skills and your tools, because that's the fun part, right? Those skills and tools are fun to play with, but you need a lot of resources for them. Now, once you use them, you need more resources again. Now, to get the resources, you need to explore, and that's where the catch-22 happens. So at the end, what happens is you use your skills, you have fun for a little bit, then you run out of everything, then you have to come back to just farming with no skills, no nothing, just waiting for things to align. You execute something, you get more resources, you can have a few more fun for a little bit, and then you return to the same thing over and over again. There is no continuation of using the skills constantly, like to have fun. I don't know why, but it kind of feels lackluster. Now let's change our perspective a little bit more into control and mechanical issues, so to speak. There's some input delay for some reason. It is very noticeable in the final boss because you have to do the combat there, where the rest of the game you really don't have to do combat at all. I mean, it's optional. If you want to, you can. Whenever you're trying to dodge, especially hard. The dodge feels very sluggish. You need to dodge maybe like 1 second ahead of where the enemy is going to attack in order to execute things on time. Everything has some kind of a delay to it. Sticks feel very, very heavy, where a small goblin should feel very maneuverable, very agile, but he doesn't feel very robust, very heavy. When you're holding onto a ledge and you want to climb from it, it depends on your camera perspective. If you're looking left, you need to press D. If you're looking right, you need to press A. It's not constant. I wish it would be just W to climb up, A to go left, and D to go right, S to go down, but it isn't. It's camera based, which I really don't like. Kill animations. When you're trying to kill from a corner, if the enemy isn't exactly in the spot, the game is going to teleport him into the correct spot and then execute the animation, which looks very scuffed. It looks very unpolished. All of these things are not design issues. They are more mechanical issues. Shows that kind of you didn't test the game very much. And again, we're going to talk about this when we get to the performance section, because I don't think anybody tested this game. Now, like promised, let's talk a little bit about the final boss for the game. The final boss is the exact final boss from the first game. Exactly the same thing. The boss is like on elevated surface. He spawns like a bunch of clones to fight against you, and then he descends down and he fight like a bigger foe. You fight against a bigger one. That's pretty much it. It's the same thing. It's not iterative. It's not evolved. It's exactly the same thing. And like I said, combat is not fun. It's very sluggish. So it doesn't feel enjoyable to do the final boss fight. Also, it's kind of hard. Like I said, not because of the complexity of the fight, but because of the execution part. It is very hard to know the timing on when to exactly dodge, because it's like a little delayed. So it takes you like a few tries until you realize how you need to dodge and what you need to do. But beside that, it's pretty simple, and it's kind of a regression, I would say. And then finally, I want to end up again with a high positive note. The map connectivity is very nice. I love how large the map is, and also how much you can go from point A to point B. There's really not a lot of bottlenecks that prevents you from doing or going places. You kind of can go anywhere you want. There are some places where the developers make you not go to a place until you get a certain skill, but after you get those skills, it is so much fun to go in between all the entrances, jump there, climb there, just dash over on that place. There's so many fun things you can do with the map once you have all of the tools. I just wish you would have gotten them a little bit earlier. Oh, for example, the crystal wall thing, you can climb onto crystal walls once you get the claws for it. And if you jump and then you drop and then you grab onto the wall, you get like a little sliding animation, which feels fucking cool. You get like the weight of Styx. It feels more realistic and it feels very nice. I love that. So pretty much what happened is only the map design got any kind of gameplay evolution or any kind of evolution or change from the previous game. Now let's talk a little bit more about vibes, how the maps feel. First of all, the maps look beautiful. It is so fun to just stand up somewhere very high up, look down, see everything in your field of vision. Everything looks so freaking good. And like I just said a second ago, the connectivity for everything, how all the areas, all the rooms connect. You get so many options to go in so many places. I just love it so much. Now, obviously, there's some negatives. The facial animations feel kind of dated. It doesn't feel like it's 2026. The character models look very strange. It kind of feels like it's still in 2017, like in Shards of Darkness. It kind of feels like we are still there. And in general, this whole game feels like just another Styx game. It is not terrible. It's not exciting. It's just familiar. Just Styx game. And I think in 2026, just being familiar without any kind of improvement or growth kind of feel dated, to be fair. Performance, this was a lot of fun. I crashed between every 10 to 30 minutes, somewhere around there. I was constantly freezing, maybe every 30 seconds, something like that, maybe 1 minute. Constant freezing. Average FPS of around, I would say 40-ish, with 70 being like the top. And I also crashed at the start of the credits, which was kind of ironic and funny. But yeah, that's pretty much it. For monetization, you have the usual skins, go buy skins, all this kind of crap, DLC skins on day one. And you also had what I really, really don't like, is the pre-purchase for like getting 3 days of early access, which is, I think, a scummy thing. Now, in my opinion, if you paid more to play this game early, you lost. I think pretty much, we'll get to it in my summary, but if you paid for this game right now, I think you pretty much lost. I think it's a scummy thing when you're trying to like build up on hype and just kind of get the play. Oh yeah, give me some more money. I'm gonna give you to play this game a little bit earlier. I just don't like this whole thing in general. I really hate that in every game, and I try to say this in every review when it happens in the game I'm reviewing, that it happens, because I really don't like this. So scummy it feels. So let's bring everything back into the summary. Number one, maps improved. I love it a lot. If they make another Styx game, I want the same maps. I'm not talking about like physically the same maps. I want the same concept of maps. Huge maps, connected, so many ways to get from point A to point B. I just love that so much. Please keep this in the game if you ever make another game. So good. But besides that, pretty much everything else feels either unchanged or weaker. The technical state, we just talked about it. The constant crashes, freezes, low FPS, just make everything worse. And also, I can't recommend the game by this being so terrible. I want to keep coming back to the same point. The game is not terrible. It's just stagnant. It's the same thing again and again and again. And it's been 3 games. In 2014, this kind of feels fresh, I guess, because it's a new genre, it's a new game. We didn't have anything like this. But in 2026, we played fun games. We know we have context to the games. And it kind of feels dated to play this thing again in 2026. Bottom line is, if you loved the previous games and you don't want any change, you're gonna have fun in this one. This is your game. But if you looked for any kind of improvement or anything to evolve and maybe become a little bit easier, more fun, it's not the game for you. I'm sorry. My opinion is wait for at least all the technical issues to be fixed, because it's pretty terrible to crash every 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But in general, I would not say I can recommend this game, because it's just the same game 3 times. I have a whole idea in my head how we could fix this, bring this back. There's so many things they could have done. I just didn't want to cram everything into this review because there's a lot of things to say in any case. So I might as well just make like a whole different thing on how we can fix this thing. Not this game, but the whole trilogy. And I want to reiterate the point. This game, it's not a disaster. It's not a terrible thing. It's just a missed opportunity. There could have been more. It could have been much more fun, mechanic-wise, story-wise. There could have been much more to this game, but it's very bland, unfortunately. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, let me know why, so I can improve. Keep safe and see you next one. Bye-bye.